Hey everyone, in this video I will make a voiceover explain my work progress from start to finish. First things first, for the sketch part, I always try to keep it as clean as possible. Even though all of the sketch and line art will be deleted later on in the final state of the artwork. It's just that having clean line art will make everything a lot easier to work with for my artwork. Normally, after I finish the sketch, I will just add some flat colors to the character. Then I will go all in and work on the background. Because every color that I will use to paint on my character is relates to the background environment colors and lighting. So it's important to finish the background first before I can start working on my character shading. By the way, for the background, it doesn't have to be completely finished. As long as it has good lighting and decent detail, we are good to go. The background is looking decent enough. Now I can start work on the shadings part. But first, let me explain a little bit on how I use my layers. I do like to keep them in separate folders. Like for the green folder is for our background layers. The red folder is for our character, and for the blue folder is for his clothing or any accessory that he has. Okay, now for the shadings. I always start with the shadows first by using a multiply layer mode for the shadow. So I'm gonna make a layer on top of our character folder, clip it to the folder below with this icon, then change it into multiply layer mode. Because we have clipped it to the folder below, no matter what we do, it will never go outside of the character in the folder below. Because of the background is at the outdoor and full of sunlight, so I will use something like a bright gray and orange color for the shadow. When I'm working on the shadow, I usually lower the opacity of the line art and turn off some part of the character layer for less distracted, so I can have an easier time just fully focus on the shadow. When I work on the first shadow, what I will focus on the most is trying to build a big good looking shape of shadow. So in this state, it is important not to zoom in, because we need to see the artwork in 100% zoom or less to draw a big good looking shape of shadow. After the big shape of the shadow looking decent enough, that is when I can slightly zoom in from time to time to work on those small little details later on. Right now, I kinda feel like the shadow's color doesn't look right to me, so here how I fix it. Click on the shadow layer, then press Ctrl U, and this bar will pop up. Play around with it until I find the best color for the shadow to work with. Then change the layer back to normal layer for a bit, so I can use the color pick and picks the original color that we got to continue working on the artwork. By the way, if you look at the top right corner, you will see me put a few color up there. Those are the color that I will use for my shadow layer. And now for the clothing. It is not as complex as the body. That is why I like to paint them normally without rely on any layer mode. Same like the body, I always start with the shadows first, and then I will slightly add some light into it later on in the progress of the artwork. I think his paint is looking okay now. I can go back and continue working on his shadow. For the second part of the shadow is a bit easier to work on. because all we have to do is working around the first shadow that we have already made. And for the color, just pick a darker version of the first shadow's color, and then just slightly move the color wheel a little bit to the left or the right, just to make the color look a bit more vibrant. From now on, you will keep seeing me turn off and on my line art a lot, just trying to check my shadow to see if it's looking good or not without the line art. Because all of this line art are just a guideline for my painting, and I will completely turn them all off later on in my work process. And for the third and fourth level of shadow, I kind of using it for the replacement of the line art. So you will see me drawing it directly on top of the line art, almost all over of his body. I think we have done with the shadow for now. We can start working on the lighting part of the artwork. First, I will start with the soft light by making a new layer, clip it to the folder below, then put it below the multiply layer mode, and I will change it into soft light layer mode. So, I will use a big airbrush and slightly paint on top of it, trying to add a bit more of the color from the background on him, like the yellow color of the bounce light from the ground, and the blue soft light from the sky as well. By doing this, it will make it look more like he's actually belong with the background and doesn't look out of place anymore. And now I'm gonna make a new layer for our highlight and the bounce light. I like to work on both of them in a single layer. For this one, I prefer using the normal layer, so I have more control over my color picking. And for this layer, I will keep it above the multiply layer mode. Normally for the highlight, I only focus on the part that I want people to look at the most, and trying to ignore the part that is not important in the art piece. For this artwork, I want people to look at the most around his face and his flexing arm. So you will see me spend most of my time just adding the detail and the highlight only around those areas. And here is another new type of light I have been playing around with lately. It's called Falloff light, which is appear around the edge of the shadow with a strong and vibrant color. We're gonna need a new layer for that. So what I will do now is to select all of the shadow by holding Ctrl and left click on the shadow layer icon to select everything in the shadow layer. And then I will use a big airbrush and slightly paint around the edge of the shadow to add this fall off light effects. Here is the final state of the artwork. I will be trying to clean every little mistake I have made so far in the artwork, while trying to add as much detail as possible. However, before I working on that, I need to merge all of this layer mode up here into each layer below in the folder, because I will no longer rely on any layer mode anymore. Using the normal layer mode will give me much more control over the color I will use in the artwork. So what I will do now is copy all of this layer mode up here, then paste them on each layer below in the folder, and merge those layers together one by one. That I finish merging all the layers and every layers have turned into the normal layer, I can start to finalize the artwork. First, I always start with the face because they are very important in the artwork for me. If the face doesn't look right, it will make the entire artwork looks off to me. So, I normally like to spend at least around an hour just work on the face only before I even start work on anywhere else. Now that his face is looking nice enough, I can start work on his body. There is something you should keep in mind, that you should not overspend your time working on a single part of the artwork. You need to try to work on every part of his body all at the same time, because if you only focus adding a huge amount of detail in a single part of the artwork, surely it's gonna make the artwork looks off, and it's very time consuming to work this way as well. For example, if I just finish adding some bounce light on his left arm, I will immediately try to add some bounce light on his right arm and any other part of his body as well, to avoid over detail in a single places. This is the type of workflow that I always enjoy to work with. By the way, even though we are working on the detail right now, but as you can see, I rarely zoom in because I am trying to avoid adding too much detail to the part that I think is unnecessary or not important in the artwork. The part that I will zoom in on the mostly his face, and the things that I think that important in the art concept that need a lot of detail and attention on them. It seems like his pants are very lack of details, so I spent some time adding a bit more of details to them, trying to balance it out compared to his body. Now, this is the part that I like the most, is adding the fur effects on his entire body to make his body look fluffy and soft with those fur effects. But don't overdo it, you may end up making him look too fluffy, and I personally doesn't like it so much. And for the brush I use for these fur effects, mostly I use a normal round brush with full opacity. And another favorite brush of mine for all of these fur effects. You can get all of this brush in the links down below. Alright, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you guys have learning something new. And my English is not that good yet, so there will be some parts of the video that are explained poorly. You can ask me in the comment below, and I will try to reply to all I can. So good luck with your study. Peace out.